Hi, and welcome to this seminar about product pages. So, the first question we should be asking ourselves is, where does actually the product page fit in the buyer journey? On a typical e-commerce site, we have a home page, a category page, or several. We have lots of product pages, we have a basket, and we have checkout. And the actual transaction usually happens on the product page. If we look at where does the traffic actually come from, usually organic traffic from searches and so on usually land on the home page if you search for a brand, for instance, or on a category page or a product page. When it comes to paid traffic and newsletters, we can usually direct that traffic to a particular page. For instance, a category page for your season's new products or a particular product that you want to promote. But the majority of transactions in e-commerce, they actually start with a search. And we can see that about 70% of transactions actually start with a search on a search engine like Google. Shopping graph is the name that Google has given to this vast collection of data points, both data that are submitted by merchants themselves and through the crawls that Google makes periodically of, all content on the internet. If we look at a typical search result and go to the shopping tab, then we will get results in the form of images, both sponsored and organic, and a number of filters that we can use to filter down to the preferences that we have for the particular search that we've made. On the shopping tab, we can also browse by clicking on the organic hits, and Google will build kind of a product page for us. And this is quite an interesting thing because we can see what Google thinks is the important information that they've managed to gather from both the merchants themselves and from other information on the internet about this particular product. In fact, it can be quite interesting and revealing to compare the preview that Google makes and the product page itself, which is where you land when you click on the link in the preview. On the whole, search pages and search result pages on Google are very visual. We can see that images, both sponsored and organic images collected by Google, dominate the top of the page. And if we look at the actual order, you get the sponsored ads first, then images, and then something called product sites, and lastly you get the organic results, which basically is like a collection of information from different product pages. And if you look at it from that point of view, you can see that the search engine result page is kind of your first product page. And if the information that Google has collected about your product isn't good, this might actually be the last interaction you have as well with your potential customer. If we go a bit deeper into these sort of dynamics of the buyer journey, it can be interesting to look at brand awareness and intent. What is the intent of the person visiting your product page, and how aware are they of your brand? We can see 4 potential use cases. You have a familiar brand or an unfamiliar brand, and the person might be just browsing or ready to buy. If we look at a typical case where you have a familiar brand and you're just browsing. That could be if you, for instance, directed to a product page or a category page from a newsletter where you have subscribed to information from a particular merchant. What you might be interested to know coming this way, where you're just browsing, is whether there's anything new. How does it compare with other brands? For instance, if we're looking at the spring inspiration here, what about other brands and their new products for spring? If we look at a familiar brand where you are more ready to buy, a typical use case for that might be that you are actually trying to find the best price or a merchant for this particular product. And if you've started off in a price comparison site, for instance, or on Google Shopping, then you will probably have a range of different merchants that you can choose, but the product is the same. And what you might be looking for then is, what is the delivery like? What do people think in their reviews of the actual merchant and the delivery experience? If we have an unfamiliar brand, for instance, something that just pops up in your Instagram feed, and you're not really intending to buy anything, you just sort of, you get caught by this particular ad, then you will probably want to know some other stuff like, what brand is this? And is this a high status brand? Or what does this brand actually stand for? And finally, if we are actually ready to buy and we go in and search for instance, in this case, just an electric kettle, then we might end up looking at products from brands that we've never even heard of. And in that case, we will be comparing that to products that we already know or from brands that we already know. And that's where something called trust signals comes into play. And we'll be talking more about trust signals in just a minute. So, what does actually a product page consist of? There are a number of elements that we can find on a typical product page. And these are, for instance, the text and visual representation of the product, what variants there are. We also have things like availability, how is the product being delivered. We have these trust signals, and we also have the possibility to cross or upsell our product. And if we look at just the text, then it's really important to think of who are you actually talking to, how do they get there, and what do they care about. There are a number of things you need to know about your potential customer in order to craft the correct text for that potential customer. And if we look at some typical examples, then we can have, for instance, a computer like this on Amazon. The important thing when you're selling this kind of product is perhaps to really put stress on the specifications of the product, and that is probably what people are looking for. How big is the hard drive, and what processor is being used. If we look at a very different kind of product, we can have like this Ken doll, where the potential customer is probably looking for something that tickles their imagination, that he looks as easy and breezy as Film Ken with his surfboard. This will probably connect well. And remember that both these product descriptions and product pages are on the same merchant site. They are both on Amazon. So knowing who you're actually selling to is really important. Okay, I mentioned trust signals, and trust signals is the sort of thing that will make you feel more confident in making a purchase from this particular brand or this particular channel. And typical trust signals are reviews, user-generated content like pictures on Instagram where somebody is wearing a particular product or brand, certifications, trusted payment methods, for instance, that they accept credit cards that you feel comfortable with, and of course, not least, if it's an unknown brand, that it actually that you can actually see contact information, so that you can see where the brand is coming from, and who you should contact if you have any questions or something needs to be adjusted in your order, for instance. Yes, there are lots of questions, and this is something which I think anyone, making product pages or building an e-commerce site should be very aware of. That you need to know the kind of questions that your customers and your potential customers are going to be having in their mind when they come to your website. And these questions fall into some different categories. For instance, there are some elementary questions that your typical customer will have, and that is, for instance, specifications for the product. What materials are actually used? How big is it? Will it suit my needs? Which variants can I choose? How does it work, and how soon can I get it? Those are typical sort of basic questions that you need to answer. But there are also supplementary questions, and these might be more sort of concerns or thoughts that you have in the back of your mind. Will this product actually look like the images on the product page? Can I trust these reviews that I'm reading? Will it fit me? And what happens if it doesn't fit, if it's an item of clothing? And if I return it, when will I get my money back? And this sort of thing is important to think about as well, that you have the answers to those questions and present them in an easy way. Another thing you have to think about is how easy it is for the customer to actually buy this product online, because a lot of products can be very complex and difficult to visualize, especially if you're not very familiar with them. And in that case, you have to kind of build or help boost the sort of inner view of this product in order for them to actually buy it online. Yeah, visualizing. Yeah, vivid visuals is really important for a good product page. But visuals it's kind of a topic of a seminar on its own, really. But I think we all agree that pictures are really important, and product images are really important, and they give you the chance to show things that you can't really put in text. You can show how details work, or you can show different perspectives and different angles. You can also show a product actually being used in a particular context. You also have the chance, of course, when you're choosing your images and designing your product page, to actually make it suit your brand and convey other values. For instance, this merchant is showing a product which is a premium sort of high level or high value item, and the product page is very elegant and very simple, which suits the sort of clean look of these products. And if we're looking at another kind of brand like Frank Dandy here, the whole brand has an attitude. It's loud and young, in its attitude, and the product pages and the product images actually reflect that and go well together with the brand. Video, yeah. Video is something you can hardly avoid. This is, for instance, from my Instagram feed, and these sponsored ads here, all these little short form videos, they pop up everywhere. And they are, of course, a very good way they are like clickbait. They entice me to look further and click on on the image, and that will lead me to a product page where I can see more about this product. But they very quickly give me an idea of what they are sort of trying to sell. And short form video, it really works, and there's lots of research that proves this. And it's interesting because not only can it be good for complex and feature-rich products, but actually, if you have the situation where you have mixed reviews, where you have a range of positive and negative reviews, then it's proven by research that a product video will actually help to clear that up and make it easier for the person browsing this product page to make up their mind whether this is a product worth buying or not. There are obviously pros and cons of making videos. There are lots of good things. You can see the product in action. You can see it, how big it is. You can see features in a really attractive and good way. But of course, a good product video is very costly to produce. The files can be very large. And of course, if you make any changes to your product, then that will probably require you to make a completely new film. If we want to see a really good example of visuals and the sort of full visual package, then we can look at Bellroy here that sell these backpacks, and they've included kind of every visual element you can imagine. They have lots of images from different angles. They have video highlighting certain product details. They have features with explanations that they display in a very clear way so that you can see a product in context and how it can be used and how this is a good product for a particular use case. They also have something clever, which is capacity. It says it's a 20-liter backpack. How big is that? Well, they show that by laying out a typical, the contents you would have in your backpack and how much 20 liters actually is, which makes it very relatable to anyone browsing for a new backpack. You can also see down at the bottom here they have related products that are slightly different from the original but match the kind of usage that you're looking for. If we look at sort of UX theory, or something which has been looked at quite a lot when it comes to all what should we say, digital services or web pages, or actually any product or any service that you interact with, you can look at something which you can call interaction cost. And what that actually means is that it's like the sum of all mental and physical efforts that you have to deploy in order to interact with something, in order to reach your goal. So if we look at what does that actually mean for e-commerce, well, it means that a usable e-commerce site, or any website really, should minimize the interaction cost. That is that, scrolling and trying to understand the information presented and waiting for the page to load and all that sort of stuff, that is a cost that you should try and minimize. So actually you should try to make it as easy as possible to use a website. That's what it all boils down to. And it can be interesting to look at a use case here. We have this page which is a product page for a hoodie, and I started off by searching for a hoodie with a white hoodie with flowers, and I landed on this page, which basically has kind of a very closed section for product details. because we have questions, as we talked about before. We have both these very sort of obvious questions about the product itself, and we also have the supplementary questions about delivery and trust and all that stuff. And if we look at the information here, which is actually presented, then it gets a bit confusing. For instance, they have size and fit under a it's collapsed under this plus sign, and they also have a sort of find your fit assistant, and that gets a bit confusing. So I have two places where I can click to actually find my correct size and fit. It also has some strange things like free delivery on qualifying orders. But what is a qualifying order? Is this product enough to qualify for free delivery? And also, what does look after me and about me mean? Is that sort of how to take care of the product, and what does about me mean? Isn't that a product detail thing? It's a bit confusing, and I would say that the interaction cost for this particular product page is quite high. If we compare with something like this is Amazon, and I mean, I've written here, if it ain't broke. I mean, Amazon has used the same layout for their product pages for forever, and it works very, very well. And although the design for Amazon is very unbranded, and it doesn't sort of have very much of a character of itself, as product information and as a product page, they work very, very well. And if we look at the questions that you might have on this particular product about what it's made of and how big it is and about the delivery and returns, etc., all that is presented right up front in a very, very good way. And obviously, since Amazon used the same way of presenting all their products, and most or very many people have shopped on Amazon, they will feel right at home, and they will find the information where they want it. So that means that the interaction cost for this particular product page, in my opinion, is very low. Yeah, another thing talking about interaction costs and so forth is of course the broader theme of accessibility. This is something that's been talked about a lot lately, and it's really important to remember that there are people that have disabilities and issues with browsing the internet and accessing digital services that you have to accommodate. And it's a really good idea to do this, because it's not only expanding your potential customer base, but it's the right thing to do. Apart from also soon being part of EU law. But anyway, so how does that affect a product page? Well, for instance, that you should be able to navigate a product page and read what it says with a screen reader. And what does that actually require? Well, it requires that you have a good logical structure for your information. For the whole website, for the navigation and search, etc., but also for the actual product page. And don't forget that contrast and readability when it comes to information on a product page is super important when you're talking about accessibility. And it is something which of course goes for every website or every page, but particularly on a page where you're expecting somebody to actually do something important, like putting a product into the shopping basket. You have to make sure that the call to action is very clear, that the contrast and readability are good. And this is, of course, going to be good for all your potential customers. Finally, I'd like to show you some cool stuff that I found in the world of e-commerce. First of all, I'd like to give a shout out to Amazon. They've done something quite clever. They started off as booksellers after all. And what they've looked at is that they have sort of grouped and looked at how old are the people that actually bought or read this book, and then they've matched that with reviews written by people of different ages. So if you are a 17-year-old and you're looking at this book as a potential purchase, then you will probably be interested in reading reviews made by other 17-year-olds. And that way they've sort of matched readers and reviewers, which seems like a clever idea. Professional reviews, they're always very good to use if you have access to them. Volkswagen, they use them a lot, and obviously with this kind of high-end, expensive and complex product, a review made by a professional is going to be good, and they're probably more reliable because they have gone through a number of standardized tests, things that they usually do with all cars that they look at. Audi, another brand, have done something clever when it comes to add-ons. When you're configuring or looking at a vehicle, they will look at the different accessories and the things that you can do to add or complement your car. And what they've done is they've actually shown how many percent of the people ordering this particular car that have used or have chosen a particular add-on. In this case, how many people or how many buyers have actually chosen the option to have a dividable back seat, 24%, which is also quite a clever idea. AI, yeah, well, we've been inundated with news about AI lately, and a fun example of AI generated product images is Sheep Included, that actually decided not to use any real models when they were doing their product shots. So they took images of their lamb's wool products, and they actually generated model images using AI. And they're very imaginative, they're very fun, and they give the whole website like a very special look. And finally, what is Google doing about AI and shopping? Well, the next thing that is coming soon is that they're actually using generative AI to make shopping and Google search much more user-friendly. Some things we can see here, for instance, are follow-up questions and sort of guides about the product category that you're looking for, which is something which will probably be very helpful for people trying to find the best of a particular type of product. So that was all for me, and I hope that this has been useful for you. And until next time, bye.